Hi there, Jeff here from the Wetsuit Centre, talking to you today about the Xcel Drylock winter wetsuit for winter 2015 into 2016. So the Drylock's been around for quite a few years now. Originally named the Drylock because of the entry system. One of the first wetsuits to ever have the chest entry system, and it's definitely been a sort of market leader in terms of one of the warmest winter wetsuits that money can buy. So it's very much a premium wetsuit. There's a lot of technology going on within this wetsuit, always has been, which makes it more expensive, definitely at the top end of this sort of budget and one of the more expensive wetsuits that we do. But having said that, you get a huge amount for your money, and the reputation is great for the Drylock. Anyone that's in seriously cold water has either had a Drylock or knows someone that has a Drylock, and they're very popular every year. So what's different with this wetsuit from previous seasons? Not a lot between this year and last year. With the introduction of the Xcel technology last year, it's sort of carrying that through basically, just with a few sort of tweaks to the shape of the suit here and there, but essentially it's very much the same wetsuit, be that the standard 5.4, or you also get the hooded wetsuit, which is a 6.4. So in terms of the thickness of the suit then, as I say, is a 5.4. So you've got 5mm of thickness in the neoprene on the lower body, and then 4mm, straight into a 4mm around the shoulders and arms. So a very thick wetsuit, really good for seriously cold water. And obviously you've got the hooded version, which comes in at a 6.4, and they are seriously one of the warmest wetsuits that money can buy. And they're used predominantly by people that really feel the cold. But we also send quite a few up to the sort of north, up to sort of northeast, up to the North Sea in Scotland, and even Scandinavia, that kind of thing. So a really warm wetsuit. So when we say 5mm, it is a proper 5mm with Xcel as well. It's a good chunky 5mm. And they do vary between brands and manufacturers. I think someone like O'Neill tends to be a little bit thinner, more of a true 5mm, because they're sort of more for Californian winters, but still plenty warm enough. And then someone like Xcel and Ripco and Seaskins, if you actually measure it, it's pretty much over 5mm. You might be talking 6mm or something like that, so it's quite interesting. But this is a 5.4, so 5mm on the lower body, 4mm on the upper body. I mentioned the Xcel technology. Now the Xcel technology will show you once to turn the suit inside out, but basically it's like a thermal lining within the suit, and the sort of principal Xcel benefit is that it reflects warmth. There's minerals within the material which reflect warmth back into the body, warming the muscles, keeping you looser in the water, and certainly keeping you warmer, retaining the heat inside the suit as well. It's a technology that's actually been used in other sort of areas, like for sports and that kind of thing, where there's more heat in the muscle to give you more flexibility and sort of a more sort of longevity in your muscles as well. Okay, so that Xcel technology runs through the whole of the suit, which I'll show you in a second. It's sort of quite clear to spot because it's quite a leery looking colour. So 5.4, and then also another key selling benefit of the suit is it's stitchless. So they've gone with the power seam technology, so all of the seams are welded together, no stitching, and then they're taped with what we call fusion weld taping on the inside, which again I'll show you in a second. And then you've got this thin sort of liquid taping over the seams on the outside. Okay, and that just seals off the suit completely, means that essentially no water should be getting into the wetsuit. That's the whole way through the suit. The reason they don't put it around the chest panel is because it doesn't bond well to the smooth skin, and you get sort of problems with the suit ripping. So they just go for more of a traditional weld there. But throughout the rest of the suit, it's all got that sort of like power seam welding, okay, which is very flexible. Much more flexible than stitching, because obviously it can move, but it's also very durable and really good keeping out water. So that's the sort of benefit of that technology. Any seams that are in the suit are bent, pre-bent to match the contours of the human body, to make sure that there's no restriction, and that's why they bend them, to make sure that there's no sort of like holding back on the seams. Okay, so you get all of the panelling in the suit is very much thought about in the same way. There's no sort of stitching in areas where you wouldn't want there to be, so like around the kind of lumbar region, you've got one sort of strip running down the middle there, which will give you plenty of flexibility. And any sort of like seams that are in this sort of back end here are bent just to match the contours of the body and make sure that they have downward stretch properties. Nothing under the arm or over the shoulder, so plenty of flexibility running through the suit. Okay, if we move further down the suit, you get the Duraflex knee pad, which is a very sort of durable material which stops any wear and tear through the knees. So if you're duck diving using your knee, or if you're sort of clambering up on like a windsurf or something like that, the knees won't get damaged. Okay, and they're slightly oversized, which is cool as well, which means that they puff up, and when you put your leg in, they sort of lock your knee in. It's a really nice feeling. And as with a sort of premium wetsuit, you'd expect all the little touches there, all the bells and whistles. You've got an embossing, or sort of like an indentation on the back of the knee, which just helps you bend the suit sort of through the back of the knee as well a little bit more. All these little things I thought about. Same around the sort of ankle as well. You get a piece of smooth skin. It's a very sort of sticky feel to it, and basically that just creates a better bond with your leg around the ankle cuff, and that will just sort of stop any sort of flush up through your legs. It creates a better bond with your leg, and I believe you get that through around the wrist as well. Just on the inside, there's a piece of smooth material here which just creates a nicer bond with your wrist again. And then you've got that sort of closed in cuff there as well, which again just grips your wrist, stops any flush up through your wrist. With your gloves going underneath, that will create a really good bond, and any seams are critically taped just to make sure they don't rip apart. Okay, so there's everything kind of thought about in the suit. The suit as well is coated. It's still got from years ago. They had the primary sort of selling benefit of the suit was being water repellent. And all that is essentially is over the fibre, the latex on the top of the wetsuit. It's like a coating which just sort of wicks away water, and so the water sort of beads and runs off. That lasts for a while, but then we found that it does sort of lose its effectiveness over time. So you get that with this new suit. That'll be quite cool. You sort of see the water running off the suit. It stays lighter for longer in the water. But that's just sort of something that's included in the suit now. And that's the whole way through. So stitchless wetsuit, 100% super stretch neoprene, so Xcel's most flexible neoprene obviously being used in this, and it's a lot of air within the foam, which traps warm air as it leaves your body, again helping to insulate you. Obviously it gives it a very sort of lightweight feel and loads of flexibility. So that's the whole way through the suit. You've still got the Drylock chest entry system. So basically that's up and over the head. I'll walk you through that. Then we'll turn the suit inside out. So you get this nice strong tab, which is actually magnetic now, which is one of the little differences. And that just sort of locks it in place, means that it's not going to be flapping around. Not a huge benefit, but every little thing helps. And as you say, sort of like, as I say, with a premium suit, you'd expect all of this. One of the best things about the suit is the zip goes from in to out. So when you sort of pull it up and over your head, rather than having to re-find the catch, you just zip it outward and it locks it down, so there's no messing around. So that's that nice sort of technology. It's nice, much nicer to do it that way. The zip itself is a YKK zip, which is very sort of durable and zip which doesn't corrode or seize up with any salt water, which is what you'd expect. Inside of the collar, you get that smooth skin material again, which sticks to your neck, creates a really good bond and feels good and stops any rash or rub. And it's a single lined neck. So with some of the necks you get double lining, which makes it quite tight, and some people don't like that. Single line neck with this, okay, so it's nice and soft against the skin and also creates a really good bond to stop any flush throughs. So up and over your head, and the actual inside of the wetsuit is brought right up to the top here. So essentially any water that comes in through the collar, instead of going into the suit, it goes against the chest zip system and then is drained out through any sort of number of areas on the chest zip system. I do believe there's one further down on the arm, I might be wrong, drain holes, but essentially basically any water that comes in through the chest zip comes out through the side, and rather than into the wetsuit itself. Okay, obviously you will still get water into your chest zip. It's unavoidable, especially if you fall off at speed, but the idea of the whole sort of Drylock system is to keep that to a minimum and to keep you as dry as possible within the wetsuit and keep all the cold water out. Okay, so inside of the chest zip system you can see it's just a bit of sort of gum tape here just to lock that chest zip down over the top and against the wetsuit to create a minimal amount of water coming in through the side here as well, which is pretty much doesn't happen. It's only really through the collar, and then you've got like a toggle here just to fasten that as well. So up and over the head, and then essentially you get in through the wetsuit through the top here. If you have a little look around the back, it's not as bad as it seems, because there are in fact the two panels of neoprene which meet up, which means you can pull them really far apart, turn the suit inside out halfway, get in that way and then bring it up and over your body. We do have a separate video on how to get into a chest zip wetsuit if you find you struggle a little bit. There's a few sort of like little tips basically that you can use to essentially make it a little bit easier. So if I back away from the camera a little bit now, as I turn the suit inside out, you'll start seeing a lot of crazy colours. They kind of look a little bit like your nan's curtains. pretty leery, but essentially this is the Xcel technology. And as I'm turning this inside out, I can see quite a bit of difference between the inside of the Drylock from last year to this year. So last year you had a lot of that kind of stuff that you see, there's like a tie-dye effect, which is up on the shoulders here, okay, and down the arm. And that is the sort of the standard Xcel, which basically has got that heat reflecting technology. But what's new about this suit, as I'm noticing as I speak to you, is the sort of more furry, sort of fluffy material on the inside here. Again, that Xcel material, but it's back combed, which gives it that sort of fluffier property. What that does is pulls water out of the material, and because it's kind of a plasticky material, which is very non-absorbent, it's sort of the water beads on the end of the fibres, meaning that it dries off really quickly and gets pulled away from the body. So when you turn the suit inside out after your surf, it should dry within about sort of 15 minutes. And that fluffy feeling aesthetically is very nice as well. It feels really good against your body. And it feels sort of a lot cosier, and obviously all of the undulations within the suit and all the gaps between the fibres will work better to trap warm air as it leaves your body as well. So it's that sort of fluffy material. But that Xcel, so that's that kind of furriness around the sort of mid part of the wetsuit. And then around the shoulders you've now actually got the Xcel, which is quite unusual because I don't think you had that in previous years, and it's quite unusual to have thermal lining around the shoulders and everything because it is a little bit more weighty and it's a little bit more restrictive. But if you really feel the cold and you're surfing really cold water, having your sort of shoulders, your arms insulate a little bit more is actually quite a cool thing. And certainly if you're going for a suit which is the warmest suit that you can really buy, then it's not a bad thing to have that insulation as well. And you get that Xcel taping as well. It's just sort of like a tie-dye effect, and basically that's just that fusion taping, which is flat against the skin, loads of flexibility through it, and that runs the whole way through the suit just to make sure it doesn't let in any water, and again just gives that suit more durability and longevity, so it's not going to fall apart, combined with that liquid taping on the outside. So that's everything pretty much going on with the Drylock this year. So as I was sort of looking through the suit, noticing a few sort of differences between last year. One of the primary differences is that really cool sort of fluffy lining the whole way through, which seems to be more and more common throughout top-end wetsuits now. It's really quick to dry, it's really good at insulating it, and it does feel very nice against your skin. It's that psychological factor of it being kind of fluffy and very warm. But also you get that Xcel through the whole of the suit, so any of that sort of reflecting of warmth and the sort of retention of warmth throughout the wetsuit is going to be right the way from the shoulders down to the ankle now. So if you're looking for pretty much one of those warmest wetsuits that money will buy, you've got the option of this 5.4, or you've got the option of like the 6.4 in the hooded version as well, which is really going to be, you know, insanely warm. But still very flexible, and it does still feel light, and it will dry very quickly as well. So everything you'd expect from an Xcel Drylock, and quite a pricey wetsuit, but pricey for good reason.